Welcome to the 2025 NFL Week 1 Sports Betting Picks video here at Quantity Media. I'm your host, Benny Ricciardi, and let's get into it with the Dallas Cowboys taking on the Philadelphia Eagles in the kickoff game. Dallas was 7-10 against the spread last season. Philly was 14-7. DraftKings has this game at a -7. FanDuel has it at a -6. A little bit of juice on both of those. My number on this game is actually the Philadelphia Eagles -8.5. So I think we have a lot of value, especially at that -6.5 over on FanDuel there. Anytime you can get a number on the other side of the 7, a key number like a 7 or a 3, that's something that you want. So Philly at -8.5, I think there's a lot of value there on the Eagles in the opening game of the 2025 NFL season. Next game up, there's actually a Friday game after the Thursday kickoff, and that's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Los Angeles Chargers. Chiefs were 9-11 against the spread last year. Chargers were 12-6. We got a -3.5 juice down to -102 over on DraftKings. We got this at a -3 with a little bit of juice to the other side on FanDuel. When I run the numbers on this game, I actually get that Kansas City should be favored by 2.5 points here. So there is a little bit of value on the Chargers if you're able to get them at that +3. Again, being a key number, that +3.5 number on DraftKings is really juicy to me. Remember, Kansas City is one of those teams that does win a lot of games, but they tend to do it late with some heroics and not always cover, which is why they were only 9-11 last year, which was actually better than they were against the spread the year before. The next game up, now we're moving on to the Sunday games. The first one is going to be the New York Giants taking on the Washington Redskins. Giants were 5-12 against the spread last season. Washington 12-7-1 against the spread. This game is -6 on DraftKings, -6.5 on FanDuel. I actually think that's too low. I got Washington should be favored by 8.5 points here. And again, love it whenever we can get the other side of a 7. It's -6.5. My number is -8.5. Not only do I have 2 points of value here, but we're also crossing another key number. So I really, really like the Redskins in this game. Next game up, the Carolina Panthers taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Carolina was 8-9 against the spread last year. Jacksonville 9-7-1. Not really a lot of value in this game. I have Jacksonville -3.5. -3 is the number that I'm seeing on both FanDuel and DraftKings. So, like I said, not really a whole lot of value in that one. Next up, the Pittsburgh Steelers against the New York Jets. Both teams have traded quarterbacks basically in the offseason. Not really traded, but, last year the Pittsburgh starting quarterback was Fields in week 1, and, the Jets had Aaron Rodgers, and now Pittsburgh starting Aaron Rodgers, and the Jets are starting Fields. So we'll see if it works out better for either one of those teams this season. Pittsburgh was 11-7 against the spread last year. The Jets just 6-11 against the spread. The number in this game is -3 on Pittsburgh, the road team favored by 3. That's what I get here as well. Pittsburgh -3. I don't really want to take a road favorite. My number is right on there. I don't really see any value in this game. I am a Jets fan, so maybe I'm a little biased, but like I said, the numbers are what the numbers are. Next game up, the Las Vegas Raiders taking on the New England Patriots. Las Vegas and New England were both 7-9-1 against the spread last year. Both of them have some new pieces to the offense. Las Vegas with the big draft pick of Ashton Jeanty. Looking forward to seeing how he does. With that being said, I do have New England favored by 2.5 points here. New England is at home, so they do get a little bit of an advantage for being at home. So really, these two teams are pretty even. I have New England slightly better. Then when you add in the home field advantage, that's how I get it up to -2.5. That's pretty much what you're seeing on the books here as well, so not really a lot of value in that one. Next up is the Arizona Cardinals taking on the New Orleans Saints. Arizona -6 on DraftKings, -5.5, juiced up a little bit over on FanDuel. They were 11-6 against the spread last year. New Orleans just 7-10 against the spread last year. New Orleans is a little bit of a mess, so this number could be one of those numbers that moves, although I don't think anybody really has a lot of faith in either of those starting quarterbacks, so I don't really know how much it's going to move because I don't think anybody really thinks one is better than the other. With that being said, I get Arizona should be favored by about 5.5 here. I really no value. The 5.5 juiced up a little bit at -120 on FanDuel. Yeah, okay, fine, but I'm not going to be betting on it. Next up, the Cincinnati Bengals taking on the Cleveland Browns. Cincinnati 10-7 against the spread last year. Cleveland was just 4-13. When I add all this up, I get Cincinnati should be favored by -5. It's -5.5 at most of the other sites. No, I don't think that that's value. Half a point on the Browns. I would not bet the Browns. This actually moved about a point when Joe Flacco was announced as a starting quarterback. So that just tells you how bad they thought the other options were. That it actually moved the point in Cleveland's favor when they announced that 40-something-year-old Joe Flacco was going to be the starting quarterback. Shout out to Joe Flacco, fellow University of Delaware Blue Hen, ass kicking chicken right there. Next up, the Miami Dolphins taking on the Indianapolis Colts. Miami 7-10 against the spread last year. The Colts were 9-8. When I break this down, I get Indianapolis should be favored by -1.5. If you bet this earlier last week, or if you bet it a week ago or so, the number was -2.5, even -3 in some places. And I think that was because Anthony Richardson, some people were projecting to be the starter on opening day. Once they announced that Daniel Jones was a starter, that's when they knocked it down to that -1.5 number. So -1.5 is where it's been as long as Daniel Jones has been announced as a starting quarterback. I don't think we're going to see it move much from there, and I don't really have any value on that number. Next up, Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the Atlanta Falcons. Tampa Bay was 10-8 against the spread last year. Atlanta 6-10-1. I get Tampa Bay should be favored by a point here. It's a 1.5 on DraftKings and on FanDuel, as a matter of fact. Again, not really a whole lot of value here. When we're talking a point or a 1.5, as long as it's under a field goal, there really isn't anything there. If it was 2.5 versus 3.5, maybe we'd talk about it, but 1 to 1.5, not really something we're going to be interested in. Next up is the Tennessee Titans taking on the Denver Broncos. Tennessee, a league worst 2-15 against the spread last year. The Broncos were actually one of the better teams against the spread at 12-6. When I break this all down, I get Denver should be favored by 8. The number on DraftKings and FanDuel is 7.5. This is one of my favorite teaser pieces of the entire week. Anytime you can get a number at 7.5 and you can tease it 6 points, you're taking it from 7.5 down to 1.5. That means you're going through the 7, you're going through the -3. Those are two key numbers in football, obviously, because of a touchdown and a field goal and what those two are worth. So anytime you can tease a number between, those two, either tease it up from like 1.5 to 2.5 up to 7.5 or 8, or tease it down from 7.5, 8 to, -1.5 or -2. It is one of the most profitable teaser legs you can have, and I really like Denver here. I have half a point of value on it at -8 versus the -7.5 the books are offering. So you tease it another 6 points. You capture those two key numbers, and it's 6.5 points of value. So my favorite teaser piece of the day is Denver, and I do think they belong at -8. The other team that I teased them with, which is why I said Seattle here, is the next game that we're going to talk about. The San Francisco 49ers taking on the Seattle Seahawks. San Francisco was just 5-12 against the spread last year. The Seahawks were 6-10-1. When I break this game down, I get San Francisco should be favored by 1 point, which is about a 1.5 off from what the books are offering right now. DraftKings has it at -2.5. FanDuel has it at -2.5. That's why I really like this as the other part of my teaser leg, because again, you can tease something down through the 3 and the 7, but you can also tease something up to capture the 3 and the 7. And that's what I'm doing with Seattle, taking it from +2.5 up to +8.5. So teaser of the week, the Denver Broncos teased from -7.5 down to -1.5. And the Seattle Seahawks teased from +2.5 up to +8.5. Both of those captured at 3 and 7 for us. The next game we're going to talk about here is the Detroit Lions taking on the Green Bay Packers. Detroit, one of the better teams against the spread last year at 12-6. Green Bay, 50%, 9-9 against the spread last year. I get Green Bay should be favored by about a point here. And basically, just to break it down for you guys, I think Detroit is the better team. I have Detroit with a little bit of a higher number than I have Green Bay at. But Green Bay is home here. So when you factor in home field advantage, that's why Green Bay should be favored here today. This game is basically a pick 'em, though. So, anything you can get value on, if it goes from Green Bay -1 to Detroit -1, I wouldn't be surprised. But I also don't really think that creates a whole lot of value for you here. Again, anything under the number 3 is, really just a roll of the dice if somebody wins or somebody doesn't. So not going to be putting too much into that. I do think the right team is favored in Green Bay, but I think they're favored by a little bit much. Next game up, the Houston Texans taking on the Los Angeles Rams. Texans 9-8-2 against the spread last year. The Rams were 11-8. When I break this down, I don't see any value in this game at all. I get Rams -2.5. That's exactly what they have on both DraftKings and FanDuel right now. The only thing that could change that is if something happened with Matthew Stafford. That number is with Matthew Stafford as the starting quarterback. If Matthew Stafford is not able to go for any reason, and I don't think there is going to be a reason because he is starting to practice now, he is back there. But if he didn't go, that would probably change things for me. I would think that Houston should be favored if Matthew Stafford's not playing. But as of now, I'm expecting Stafford to play. I think a lot of the bookmakers are as well. That's why they agree with that -2.5 number. Next up, the Sunday Night Football game. Sunday Night Football is a really good one. We got the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Buffalo Bills. Baltimore was 11-7-1 against the spread last year. Buffalo was 12-8 against the spread. And I get exactly what the books have here as well. I have Buffalo favored by -1.5. Again, I have Baltimore as Baltimore is actually the number one ranked team in my power rankings. Buffalo is not very far behind them, but when you factor in the home field advantage, that's why I have Buffalo slightly favored here. But again, I think this game is another pick 'em. On a neutral field, I would favor Baltimore. With the game being in Buffalo, you got to account for that as well. So, that's why I have Buffalo favored here. But really, I wouldn't be surprised if this one goes either way. I think it's going to be a great game. I can't wait to watch it, but I'm not going to be touching either side of it. And then the Monday Night Football game, the final game for Week 1 of the 2025 NFL season. Minnesota Vikings taking on the Chicago Bears. Minnesota was 11-6-1 against the spread last year. The Bears were 8-7-2 against the spread. I have Chicago should be favored by -1 here. And from what I'm seeing, both of these books have Minnesota favored by 1. Now, again, like I was saying before, is it a massive difference when it's 1 point around the zero, in either direction? No, it's not. But I do think that Chicago should have been favored in this game, not Minnesota. Therefore, I do think there is value on the Chicago money line. I wouldn't touch the spread in this one at -1, but I do think this is a good place to go out there and bet the money line. So there you go. That's going to wrap it up for our Week 1 NFL sports betting picks video here at Quantity Media. Make sure to give a like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.